Boy.
The game already.
And here we go. Tato in the blue in the north, and Kyo noticeably on the left. So not in opposition, but rather on the same side here.
Yeah, this is something that can happen pretty frequently on Sahara. You won't be always on the opposing sides of the map. Now, I guess my question to you in regards to this is, does this make it easier or harder to scout your opponent? Because from one perspective, the distance to cover between the two players is much shorter. But then again, you don't even know where to look for your opponent in these instances. So does this make scouting the opponent more effective or more difficult? Does this make forwarding your opponent more difficult?
It can, especially if that early vill just whiffs on the opponent. This is one of those things where in AoE 1, we also have a very, diverse band of where the players can spawn on most maps. So this is actually something that's not uncommon to AoE 1. And it's just sort of like the meta has adapted to the point where, if it's a map where you're really not sure if you're going to find them, like a big land map like this where you're not sure, strategies and tournaments tended to evolve into somewhat relying on safer strategies, such as at the time it was the slinger defense, which was just you kind of walled up quick, you built a bunch of slingers, and then eventually hit this critical mass and move out. But here, with the meta being so up in the air, we haven't really seen a strategy like that evolve yet. Wondering if maybe TaToH has something up his sleeve for something similar to that. But really, what it comes down to when you do these forwards is you just can't build blind. If you build blind, you could be building on the wrong side of the map entirely. For example, if they had spawned with Kyo on the right versus the left here of TaToH, TaToH could accidentally build on the right side here and just be completely missing the mark. Or in the far south, that's still super far away from Kyo's base. So it's kind of risky to do the forwards without seeing any indication of civilization, right? So you kind of have to wait until you spot someone, but you also then put yourself at risk because then they could spot you. So there's kind of this whole back and forth of vision where these players really need to be on point with their scouting if they're going to rush effectively. And we saw VerteX doing that very well in all the games that he played, where he was really aggressive with the building, and then as soon as he didn't get the perfect barracks placement, things just kind of fell apart for him.
Yeah, it looks like TaToH is the only player that's committing a villager to scouting just yet. Might actually be greeted by the base of Kyo here very soon. He's actually pretty close. Now, one thing to pay attention to is that the players are spawning on these plateau-esque positions. So when he sees kind of that incline-type hill, he could make a guess that the opponent could be there, or at least you definitely aren't looking for your opponent in these lowland areas in the middle of the map. And I think spotting that large gold mine is going to be the clue that tells him that Kyo is nearby. He's going to miss out on the gold mine, and this is what we were talking about, Winston. You don't expect your opponent to be this close to you. This is not really a factor in AoE 2 because you have a scout to scout the map with, but here, you commit a villager to it, you don't have crazy line of sight, it's gonna be challenging to find the opponent.
Yeah, and Kyo's definitely one of those players who's going to use this effectively. He's a very comfortable player both in rushing but also defending and bronzing. And picking Greeks to me says that he's basically saying, I'm not committing to a rush sieve or a rush strat. I will be very happy if this game goes to bronze. Greek have a very, very solid bronze and Iron Age, so I think he's going to be very comfortable in any situation, and I'm just curious to see what he ends up actually doing here, because he does have a vill moving across the map in similar fashion, and TaToH kind of looping to the left now, but Kyo going straight across to the right, and TaToH building a bit blind here. If he sends barracks units south, this could be a problem, but he does know the shape of the height of the plateau, so he might have realized by now that this is not it. And both players kind of equidistant off, equal distance away from the opponent's base with their forwards, and it looks like TaToH's kind of keyed into the fact that, I don't know, he's going south.
Oh no, he doesn't know. Folks, TaToH doesn't know. He thinks his opponent is to the south. Little does he know that he is to the north. Oh, that's gonna sting. Although it looks like now he's heading to the north. He's still just exploring right now. That clubman is doing the same thing as the villager, just looking for the opponent. And oh, they forgot to change the settings, it seems, as well, because the ruin countdown actually started ticking. That's not supposed to be the case. They were supposed to play on Conquest, not Standard.
Yeah, interesting, but the timings are very similar, and TaToH going for just a massive wall off. We'll see if that actually holds. He's got a huge forest in front of his base, and that is actually where the rush is coming from. But Kyo gonna spot the clubbers and trying to defend, the clubbers being the club men here. We call them clubbers sometimes. And he's gonna try to defend this with some quick walls. He will not be able to do it though, and the Axeman's in from Tato, and that's actually massive. Starting the series off right, both players kind of missing the mark with the rush, and Kyo is now completely lost as to where Tato is. His rush is completely whiffed. Oh boy, this could be messy for Kyo fast here if he doesn't find damage and soon. And this wall off looks like it's actually going to finish.
TaToH was coming in just in time, and as you mentioned, this was a race to whoever finds the opponent first, and that was TaToH. He's going to push away the villagers, getting some kills as well already. And look at the villager count. Don't forget, as you mentioned, you also have faster villager production here in Tool Age for the Greek. And even with that, Kyo is down by 8 villagers already. Now, these walls, I think, are the foundation set. TaToH will try a quick wall, and he actually gets it through. You just know this guy came from AoE too.
Yeah, I mean, these sorts of moves are familiar to the AoE 1 players as well, but the reason you're probably not seeing it is because the tile size is actually different in the two games. So it's sort of a very feel-based mechanic, and if you're not ready to do it, it just doesn't work. So you saw Kyo kind of miss it because he misjudged the timing a little bit. And then TaToH's here with the timing really understood of like how big the tiles are, visually how that lines up with where he needs to wall, and it just works really, really well for him here. And now TaToH, with some bowmen, gonna be defending against this.
Kyo just had to scatter all his villagers all across the map at this point. You can see red dots just scattered all through the map. Not many villagers remain, though. He's down to 16 as compared to TaToH's 19, and we are reaching the point where even if Kyo finds a bit of a damage, it might come in too late. TaToH knows this. He's aware of the damage that he has done. He's going to just wall up and say, okay, I'm fine playing a long game from this point on, because I know that you're in such a disadvantageous position.
And he's getting nice walls up in most of the spots, but there's going to be a small attack coming in on the north. 2 bowmen should be able to repel 2 axemen, but the villagers there could make it messy. TaToH with just great micro here. But the axemen are pretty fast, so we're going to see how TaToH handles this. Get some more damage in, and looks like GG was called. Oh man, Kyo just in shambles there. His rush completely whiffed. TaToH's also did, but TaToH quickly adjusted and responded correctly. And that was a fast game 1.
Yeah, quick strike here by TaToH. We've been discussing that scouting element at the beginning of the game. Didn't really work out for either of them, but TaToH was a little faster finding his opponent. And the initial 2 axemen just did so much damage to Kyo, just threw off the entire game plan. And with that, TaToH secures game number 1 over here in a very swift fashion. Just under 13 minutes of game time, and he already has the lead.
Yeah, for sure. Really early lead for TaToH, and that's going to be good for him. They actually have played in tournaments before, in AoE 1 DE, and I think they came pretty close several times.
Selection for TaToH for game number 2, and for Kyo, we will have the Macedonians.
Yes. Let's dive in. So once again, we're on Gold Mountain. Very similar to Gold Rush, but again, another completely brand new map for AoE 1. Although like players can, it's pretty simple concept. It's not too complex to pick up. But, I mean, it could have some implications if this game does go late. Noticeably, the player's front of their base is very open and exposed. That's a really hard thing to deal with in this game. Usually, you want that forest blanketing your front, just kind of giving you that warm embrace that makes you feel safe and cozy all day, all night, you know? And without it, you just feel so open and exposed, and your opponent can just walk in from any angle, and it really makes defense a lot harder, which makes aggression a lot more valuable. So I'm expecting both players to play aggressive here. And now we do have a more standard position where the players are exactly opposite each other. And we should see how that pans out now.
Yeah, now Golden Hill is a somewhat classic AoE 2 map, although not exactly built as we have it over here. It's more about having most of the gold concentrated in the middle, which is something that's obviously a lot more valuable in AoE 2 than it is with the Tool Age meta being dominant in AoE 1. So having most of the gold there in the middle should not be a major factor over here. Bigger thing is likely going to be that hill that you have in front of the opponent's base.
Yeah, the hill could definitely come into play, right? Especially if you have that, like you just said, forward position. Slingers or bowmen up there could really reign supreme. Now, the hill bonus has changed, right? And I think, to me, what that means is kind of a slightly... So the way that the hill bonus has changed is that before, ranged units on a hill were just super duper dominant, right? It was very hard to come back from, but you could fight with ranged units down a hill, and it would be relatively even if you could dodge enough arrows. Whereas in this version of the game, there's just a lot more like nuance to how the hill bonus feels, like 25% up and down, I think. So it's like a very... in terms of like the evenness, certain units don't do even better on a hill than before, which was definitely favoring the ranged units. So that's definitely like a kind of a game-defining difference that players will have to get used to, because, you know, like in AoE 1, if I had a bowman on a hill and you had a bowman on a hill, we would do the same damage to each other. So it's sort of like... No, we wouldn't. We would do more damage, but if you dodged, right, you could do the same damage uphill. So it's kind of like, that was like the whole point of it. I'm explaining this very poorly, Lidakor, but my intention is to explain how how the hill bonus is different, and the players have to adjust to it.
Yeah,
that's what
we get the point. You gotta adjust to the hill damage, indeed. So far, so good. Looks like Kyo is the one who's a little bit more aggressive with the scouting. Just now, Tato only now committing a villager to scout might actually be straight up a forward will, because, hello? That's probably just him realizing that he would get housed if he doesn't build one. And on the other side, look at what Kyo is doing. He's not going for the obvious, quote-unquote, sneak spot. He's going to put it at the bottom of the hill, actually, but that's probably the place where Tato won't be looking in the first place, because we've discussed this. That hill is such an advantageous position that you probably want your stuff up there. What if you hide it to the side?
Yeah, definitely could be sneaky here, but he has to make sure he doesn't go too deep and give away the position. Oh, Mace, but that's the whole advantage, right? Macedonian villagers with that extra line of sight. He now sees the berries, target acquired, and there's no chance Tato saw that. It's one of the main reasons you pick this Civ, is that intel advantage, and we'll see if he's able to use it here. Meanwhile, Tato just going to be placing his barracks dead center.
Yeah, so let's take a look at these barracks positionings, because obviously this is going to be a shorter distance to cover for Kyo, so he could do more immediate damage. But then again, Kyo's going to have no defenses back at home either. So whose position or whose aggression are you favoring right now?
Kyo, he's faster. He has the upgrades coming in. Armor and a clubman is going to be super deadly. Wall is already on the way, and the first clubman just came out for Tato. So the first clubman's a little later for Kyo, but he's going to have the upgrades faster. And I think he already has a really clean wall off on the right side of his base, but he just has to find food long term. And here's that clubman. But he has armor on his clubman, whereas Tato doesn't have it yet. It's coming in, though. Bowman on the way for both players, probably.
Yep. Quick walls are coming up for Tato as well on his lumberjacks, and it looks like Kyo is pulling villagers to the south here. Has to be cautious because Tato might see that, but looks like that single axeman is just being chased away by so many villagers. But it looks like one villager will get picked off, so there's definitely some value out there for that aggression so far. Lumberjacks were walled in. There's also an archer that's walled inside there, so could have tried picking off the axeman from inside. Tato, look at that, blocking the pathway for that axeman, making sure that the archer can pick it off. Villager will live to see another day, won't get picked off by the axeman.
Oh, when he pops out and kills the bowman, that's going to be clutch to keeping his units alive, and he's just fighting with villas, a lot of idle time. I think a really important note here was Kyo's attack hit just moments before Tato, and Tato just idled his clubman on the hill, which meant his damage was a lot less. And actually, Kyo noticed, and now he's pulled those villagers over to Tato's base, where he has his forward, so now we're kind of getting a little bit of a base swap. And we'll see if Kyo's able to stay on those berries in front of his base for long. He's got the hill, but Tato has one more bowman. But the axeman charging them down. The axeman going to focus down the villagers now. The villagers hopping into the town center for safety. One will go down. Oh boy, this is looking dicey for Tato, but I think he's going to be able to hold, especially if he has better micro than Kyo, which looks like what's happening, trading 1-for-1. The Axeman's coming to threaten the big slap. The big slap for the Axeman, obviously going to do a lot of damage with the Slingers out as well. 3 ranged units to 2 now. The Bowman doesn't have armor, so it goes down fast. Oh my gosh, this is such a dicey position for Tato. So many idle vills, he's just not gathering food.
Yeah, that's the big thing. His berries are denied, his hunt is denied, and you can see that his town center is idle the whole time. Any food he grabs, it goes into military because he needs to hold this when he's trying to bash his way into the wood line of Kyo here. But these archers, the slingers and the axemen, they're just shutting down Tato's food eco so effectively. And Tato, he's just unable to produce villagers at this point. Actually finds a way to get out to some of the berries in the middle. But behind this one, Kyo is stabilizing, continues to pick off villagers, and Tato, his economy is just looking so fragile right now, so much idle time on him.
Yeah, this is going pretty well for Tato in terms of the actual defense mechanics, but it's going poorly for Tato in getting resources. Like you said, oh, he actually squeezes out, and I don't think, okay, Kyo immediately notices. But what's his game plan going to be? Some chase, some attack? Yeah, looks like it's going to be sort of a split here. And now the wood line under pressure. A lot of bowmen in there, though, for Tato. Just can't quite reach with most of his units. This is very awkward. Pretty bad trade for Kyo there. Meanwhile, his base is still kind of under attack, right?
Yeah, but there is no archer here. Just 2 axemen bashing down the walls, and now the archers will find Tato. Tato has to flee, and Tato is just struggling for resources at this point. He hasn't been producing villagers for minutes right now. Eco count is still relatively even, but that comes from a position where Tato had a villager lead of about 5 or 6. Now it's just a 3 villagers lead. If he can stabilize his food income, he could still be fine here, but that was a big issue for him the last few minutes.
Yeah, now these axemen gonna be probably sniped here. No, Kyo gonna be able to get away with that kind of ballsy attack. As Tato's just looking for food but won't find it anywhere. A couple of slingers and bowmen here being frontmanned by the axemen. As 5 on 4 now, or sorry, 7 on 4. So Kyo's gonna have to retreat. Oh man. Tato just barely hanging on by a thread. It looks like he's actually going to be able to defend this. If he's able to clear up this little army, Kyo's attack kind of falls flat a bit. He's had some idle vills for a bit, but I think Kyo's finally sorted that out. Now the bowman coming, but Tato's micro is just impeccable here, taking down the entire army of Kyo. Just 2 bowmen remain and have to retreat. As Kyo also takes a fight against the axeman here, so gonna kind of clear up his own base in the process.
Yeah, when the dust settles, we basically have an equal villager count, but Tato managed to kind of sneak out of his base with some of the villagers, and if these archers find a way to Kyo's eco, that changes the whole game, because the thing that Tato has been struggling with for the most time is getting into that lumberjacking eco of Kyo. That was just impossible for him, and that's why he's trying to sneak around over here, actually intercepting a couple of archers, but this is also going to alert Kyo. On the north, though, we do have archers harassing the lumberjacks of Tato. We'll lose 1 before there is an archer that comes in to push these away.
Yeah, this map seems to be playing so aggressive with the players' TCs being so exposed, but I mean, Kyo hasn't really been making vills himself too much, right? He is right now, but no, actually he's not. Tato's the only one making villagers right now, so Kyo's kind of in an all-in situation, but doing slingers and bowmen. And we'll see if Tato's able to hold against this. Because Tato's kind of spread out on the map more. But now it's TC where he just built a bunch of brand new farms. A huge investment. Immediately put under pressure. And the bowmen find the lumbers. The woodline, sorry. The lumbers.
Oh, so many archers
Tato
now
and
diving in
Garrison.
here. Go ahead.
No, Tato just a garrison, and he took he took some unnecessary damage there. The bowman just chilling. Really tricky for both players, I think. This is a very technical game of AoE 1. Well, Return of Rome.
It is. It most definitely is. Tato now forced to completely abandon his starting base. You see, no farmers, no lumberjacks inside. Actually gets around to the other side of the map into Kyo's base. Both players taking heavy damage on the eco department, but now TaToH has the positional advantage over here at the top of the hill. Will just send everything he has towards the base of Kyo. If he finds a way in, that could be his ticket into game number 3 with a victory. But still, his eco is also being shut down by these archers. Almost like a base trade scenario at this point.
Yeah, neither player's economy is doing very well. Kyo with 18 villas and TaToH with 16. But some idols for TaToH right now as he's hiding in his base, and here comes TaToH with his bowman. Kyo not noticing yet. Will notice now. Gonna take a decent trade here. TaToH trying to micro this out, but he's gonna be surrounded kind of on two sides. He's gonna have to retreat. The bowmen are coming from both sides, and TaToH has to leave his own base, so these villagers will remain idle. Kyo, his focus on this army has proven to be effective until now. Will it continue to be so, as actually TaToH killed a house and has made it into Kyo's woodline, but Kyo has wisely moved even...
Well, can you fit a storage pit to anywhere meaningful there? That's the big question right now. I don't think he can fit it far away from the walls, and placing it close to the walls makes no sense because the archers are nearby, so... that could be just
TaToH doesn't know. TaToH doesn't know, though. Look at the bowman. Where's that? What the bowman sliding? What?
I think TaToH thought that those villagers snuck out, but now he lost track of them. He won't be able to snipe them down. 16 to 19 is the villager count. TaToH is also down by 6 archers at this point, and look at that. All those villagers go unpunished here. TaToH is actually looping to the south over here. Might regroup with his own archers and then just try to take a decisive fight over here at this point. Oh, his archers being cornered now. Beautiful hill position by Kyo. Will just rain down death on those archers. Will pick off 2 before TaToH is able to disengage. Make it 3. TaToH's position is just getting worse and worse at this point. He needs to find eco damage.
Yeah, it's a really... These bowmen are extremely bugged. Where are they at this point? Are they just on the other side of the map now?
Who's firing arrows all across the map here?
It's the sliding bug. We've seen it a bit in KOTD, where they kind of slide. Look at you can follow the arrows' directions, but Vodka wisely keeping us on the action here, as the bowmen for TaToH now are going to take this engagement. It's a bit risky. Kyo did spot the economy in the north for TaToH, so if he wins this fight, he might head up there next with some bowmen. But TaToH's been wisely holding him at bay.
TaToH's micro here is as good as it gets, trying to get the maximum value out of these bowmen. Managed to even out the numbers right now, even takes down the bowman on top of the hill, but has to disengage from this one. And one of the things that TaToH is not doing is actually making villagers. He's committing all his food into archers, but now there's the tiebreaker from Kyo. He gets a stable down, and at this point, even just 1 or 2 scouts will decide the game in the favor of Kyo.
Yeah, this is looking really, really dicey for TaToH. This is balanced on a knife's edge. If he loses too many vills here to this big bowman army, he could just lose the game, as he's down to just 15 vills now. Or sorry, 16. And noticeably, the stable, like you said, 3 or 4 scouts could really help punish the whole map here for Kyo. And TaToH's just in no position to make that switch. But here it comes, a huge raid in. 3 vills going down for Kyo. This was where his whole economy's been. And TaToH finds it, strikes gold. And oh my gosh, Kyo just microed his archers up into the death. Oh my gosh, he just loses everything.
That's perfect from TaToH. That could be his ticket back into this game. Kyo has to run away to the northern side. And as you said, this was the entire economy of Kyo. Now he's pushed away from food. And he has a stable, but he will struggle to put scouts on the field when he doesn't have access to food. Quick Walls from TaToH will keep that scout outside. And if TaToH can capitalize on this archer mess, if he can pick off those villagers, there might still be a chance for him. It's a slim chance. He's down to 12 villagers himself, but there might be a small window still open for him.
These arrows, these archers are just in the corner of the map now. They've slid all the way to the right corner. That's so funny. And oh, looks like TaToH walled and then immediately overchopped his berry. Yeah, he's shooting the
no.
TC of Tato right now with that Bowman. Something's really bugged out. Something is bugged. We've been seeing this in KOTD a couple times, right? With the Mangadai, for example. So this seems to be a bug with AOA2 right now. As now Tato moves in again for another attack, but Kyo has so many archers that Tato has to be careful. Even with the hill, it's very unlikely he wins this. Although the reinforcements from the west could be enough here.
Yeah, he needs to position his archers on the hill. That's critical at this point. And
Oh,
he
no
does
chance.
so very effectively, but still just missing out on the numbers. He has had so little production for quite a while, and he knows that. Tato will tap out, and Kyo takes game number 2. What a slugfest this was. Really back and forth for a long time. Kyo carves up a small lead, and then Tato just appears with a bunch of bowmen at that farming eco. For a moment, it seemed like Tato was going to be able to make something happen here, but then Kyo just firmly finishes this game, and in the end,
Picking Nomad is bold, and let's see it. So immediately building the dock, as you'd kind of expect. Karth obviously going to have even better time with this, with the extra resources similar to Persians in AoE2, where you can afford the TC for 200 wood, and then you can build the dock and the house here, and you're still going to have wood for that first fishing boat. So it seems that Tato has a practice build order, and here comes his TC as well. And meanwhile, Kyo kind of... Oh, these players are very close. Okay, this could be a decisive game. Oh, Kyo, notably, not going to dock yet. I guess he can't with a normal Civ here. I'm not really familiar with the Nomad build orders. This isn't a map that exists in AoE 1, so Nomad is a setting, and you don't really play it much. So Tato clearly has something prepared. And I don't know what Kyo has prepared for us.
yeah, it looks like
So we can...
Kyo's position is going to be very interesting over here. He's very close to the shoreline, so as you can see, he even has access to some shorefish. But he's kind of cornered in here if you take a look at Tato's position. So, especially seeing what we've seen in the previous games, where players are just trying to flee outside of their bases when they are under pressure, that's going to be a challenging thing to pull off for Kyo, given how confined his position could become.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting, this different approach between the two players. Tato hasn't actually gathered any food yet with his vills other than his one shorefish vill. And now he's going to be reliant on the fishing income to give him that opening. I don't know if this works, but he's up 2 vills. Up 3 vills, up 2 vills. Up 2 vills in a little bit. And we'll see how that pays out. We'll see if this works. Because you would assume the player with the fish is going to be in much better position, as he's now pushing his hunt. But I would assume that Kyo has much more stockpiled food at this point. Yeah, he's got 2 full vills in Kyo, so we could potentially see a much faster age up for Kyo, but I don't know. I have never seen this build order, so I've never seen either of the build orders, so I really don't know what to expect.
Yeah, we have a 2 eco lead right now for Tato, so the start here in Stone Age was a little bit more effective for him. We'll have to see how Kyo catches up. DauT is already up for Tato. He's up to 5 fishing ships, as compared to Kyo, who is yet to build a dock, and Kyo needs to be cautious here, because if that eco lead is maintained by Tato, he could convert this into a much faster tool age, and then we could see aggression really dominating here, especially with Tato spotting the base of Kyo. So, target acquired, he knows fully well where to go, and if he beats his opponent to tool age here, it might be a major challenge for Kyo to defend.
Yeah, no, Kyo might be in some trouble here, but notably, I would say that take note of the fact that Tato, he's up 6 fishing boats, but only up 3 villagers. But he's down 3 villagers, like real vills. So the fishing is good, but if you don't have enough wood or something, or if you get a little raided on the land, you could have a lot of food but no way to spend it. Like, there could be some messy situations here. And we'll see the timings here for the tool. Because, like you said, I think this is the most important element, is who's going to have the faster rush here. We have dueling barracks staring each other down with the house beside it. So this game could be over fast. Very reminiscent of Saymyname versus ACCM earlier this day.
Yeah, barracks are up for both players over here. Kyo spotting the forward here from Tato. No Tool H coming in just yet for either player. Tato is going to pop Tool H first, but the first Clubman is already on the way for Kyo. Not something that Tato has queued up just yet.
Yeah, and I wonder how quickly Kyo's gonna build the dock and get on the sea, because it seems like it's a very important element of the game, and he's gonna spot the economy. So now Tato knows he's under pressure, but Kyo just sticking with land eco for now. I kind of wonder if this is a mistake. Like, the fish is so important here, and Tato's gonna be able to rely on it, especially if Kyo never puts it under pressure with scout ships of his own. Another barracks for Tato. Oh man.
And look at that. Tato's got all the real estate to the north to work with, whereas for Kyo, he's just confined in here. He will start running out of resources pretty fast. And Tato just wisely spreading out his villagers, making it very challenging for Kyo to find these and harass them.
Yeah, but interestingly, Tato does have the faster uptime, so I don't even think Tato's in much trouble. And once he gets there, he has consistent food income that's not going to be easily interrupted by Kyo's attack. I think Tato's Dark Age has just been, or sorry, Stone Age. It's so funny looking at the AoE2 UI and saying Stone Age. It's such a mind bender, you know. And Tato's going to be here with the Axeman upgrade. I think Kyo's in a lot of trouble here.
Yeah, here come the Clubmen. And Tool Age in Axeman upgrade on the way as well. The only Clubman that Kyo has had was killed. Looks like Quickos will prevail for the time being. Doc is just now coming in. But this is where it would be lovely to see Tato pop a scout ship. Every single villager here from Kyo is on the shoreline. A single scout ship could do so much damage over here. And so much to support the aggression that are coming out from these Axemen.
Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening here. The scout ship on the way for Tato. It's going to be making its way over, making a pit stop at the berries, at the wall, at the TC. Like, there's basically nothing the scout ship can't do for Tato right now. And behind that, he's adding some bowmen already. So, man, this just looks like such a powerful position. And Kyo, his wall, it's going to be in trouble here. Man, Tato's build order here seemed really crisp and prepared. Gotta give credit to him. And Kyo immediately seeing the scout ship going to have to run. Queues up a scout ship of his own, but it's going to be too little too late. The scout ship going to be able to pressure this wall. The stone wall's coming around it. Oh boy, this is looking messy if you are Kyo.
It is looking very difficult right now. He's trying to go for a couple of bowmen, trying to still rewall this position, but it comes at a sacrifice of villagers, and that is never a good sight to see. Villagers getting picked off over and over again on the berries, on the walls, and the counter attacks just not finding any value. Finally, the first scout ship is out for Kyo, but Tato is doubling down on the water. He maintains naval presence, and look at Tato's shift of focus. He realizes that it might be a challenge to get through the walls. Will start bashing on the dock to prevent additional scout ships from being made.
Yeah, and once his bowman joins this fight, I think Kyo's dead. Oh, actually, no, I misread that. So Kyo's adding the bowman, and Tato's adding slingers, but he's got 3 scout ships now, and Kyo's fully retreated. Oh, Tato hasn't noticed his economy. Now he has. And he pops out again, so doing this trick now to quickly kill the bowman. I'm starting to really like that little mechanic and how players can use it to do these tricky plays, right? It's not too strong in my opinion, but it's definitely a big defender's advantage being added to the game with this mechanic.
For sure it is. Kyo has nowhere to go though. He's being pushed away on the water by the scout ships, and now you have some slingers for Tato to deal with those bowmen. They might still be able to find a couple of villager picks, but if you look at Kyo's eco, it's just non-existent. He basically has lumberjacks exclusively, and they're also being slain. So even though Tato is losing a couple of villagers himself, his losses are nowhere comparable to how big the losses of Kyo are.
Yeah, and this dock's about to go down. Oh boy, this is very, very tricky. And Chipsler, thank you for the 5 gifted subs to the channel. EGCTV does a lot of really cool events across the Age series, across the Age games. Notably, a lot of really awesome AoE4 content. So your support goes a long way to supporting these tournaments. And Kyo taps out, man. Oh my gosh. Tato just with a decisive win there, but the home map advantage seems very clear, right? It was, to me, it seemed quite obvious that Kyo did not have a build order prepared to the same way that Tato did. Tato's build seemed fresh. it seemed hot. It seemed really good, right? That early dock, early fishing boat. He had a 2-vil lead early, and he grew that into like 4 or 5 at the start of Tool Age. And he
I
had a
think
faster uptime too.
I agree to a certain extent, but we shouldn't forget the kind of unfortunate positioning of Kyo's starting base. A lot of this came down to the fact that the scout ships could start picking off the villagers. If Kyo's base was more inland than these scout ships, all they can do is pick off the fishing eco of Kyo, and then the Axeman could have been picked apart by the archers. So this exact same approach that TaToH and Kyo have taken would have been with probably a very different result if it wasn't for the fact that Kyo's base was on the shoreline. Game, Citadel it is, TaToH with the 2-1 lead against Kyo.
Oh yeah, and so Hittite Minoan, interesting. So Minoans have received an interesting change on to their land. So primarily, they used to be a very powerful sea faction, and they still are. They didn't lose that, but one of their bonuses was their farms had additional 60 food, and that was basically just a worse version of the Sumerian bonus, which was their farms had an extra 125 food. So something that's happened here is now the Minoan bonus is actually similar to the Slavs, where it's actually faster farming gather rate. So in these boom games, you have some really interesting options to have really, really strong economy. And let's not forget, the Minoans have probably one of the more iconic armies. If you were a kid and you played this game, you probably remember Minoan Composite Bowman with the extra range, right? It was kind of, I feel like everybody's favorite at some point of their career playing this game, whether it was casually or competitively. And so Kyo is, I think, going to be bringing us the Compy Supreme, where you get, a solid 80 to 90 villagers, and then you pump out of like, I don't know, like 9 or 10 ranges. Well, you don't even need to do that. You can start pumping at like 40 villagers out of like 8 ranges, and you just get up to 100 compies so fast. And we'll see how TaToH handles that. He's got Hittites. They have good options in Iron Age to Minoan, but in Bronze Age their options are quite limited, especially on a map that's already closed like this. This is going to favor a slower style play that Minoans kind of are favored in, whereas Hittite, they want to be able to use the mobility of their chariot archers in Bronze Age. But we'll see how much these players boom Lidakor. I mean, in the last game we saw in Citadel, we saw basically an all-in versus kind of a boom defense attack style from those two players. So I'm excited to see how 2 more players take this challenge on. If we're just going to see a full boom game or not, I'm not sure. But if you've been watching and you're like, oh, all these games end in Tool Age, well, this is definitely the game that's going to give you a lot more diversity of units. We're going to see more than just Axemen and Slingers, almost guaranteed. Oh my gosh, that Vil almost died. But we don't talk about that. No mistakes here. That was perfect. And now we see TaToH. Pretty standard opening. 4 on wood here.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm looking at here going into this matchup is this is a map that's essentially arena in AoE 2, and that's something that TaToH is very experienced with. On the other side, you have Kyo, who, as you mentioned before, playing AoE 1 hasn't really played this map. So as much as this could come down to civilizations, unit choices, and similar matters, to a certain extent, this game could come down to experience with a specific map, and just in general, the mindset that you need to have playing a specific map or a specific map type. And from that perspective, TaToH has an advantage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He definitely does in that regard, but still, late game decision making, I'm still gonna give an edge to Kyo. Although it seems to me that there have been some slip ups with the micro and like some of the macro elements of the game so far for Kyo. So he's definitely not adjusting as like much as he probably would have hoped he is to this game yet. But again, I mean, we're 2 days in, so it's very hard to say like, oh, blame him or anything. It's a lot of change to adapt to. And TaToH's just done really well at adapting, as he's done to a lot of different games in the past. He's a very talented, like, multi-RTS player. And we'll see now as Kyo pulls in his elephant. Oh boy. Stone Age. What a fun time.
It is, especially on Citadel. This is just a classic thing in AoE 2 as well when you play Arena. Just a chill Dark Age in AoE 2 or Stone Age over here. Nothing to worry about. probably the only map where you don't have clubmen in your eco after like 7 minutes in this game right now.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, this slower Stone Age, definitely different for AoE1. There's always the threat of the rush on almost every map except islands, and even then, people would just transport ship all the time. So even then, that was kind of a false sense of security. Whereas here, you definitely feel these medium walls. Like it's a good feeling to have these surrounding your base. And I'm excited to see the execution of the build orders here because I have a slight feeling that Kyo is going to be just a little bit more, how do I say, just a little bit cleaner in his execution of the boom. But again, maybe the mechanics of the game just aren't suiting him yet. We'll see, though.
You know, let's take a look at those gold mines, because Kyo does have a storage pit close to the gold mine, and the last time we have seen players match up against on Citadel, we have seen a market-based build. Despite the high costs of food, there was still some food being purchased, so I'm actually wondering if that's a direction that either of these players will be taking.
Yeah, they both have the storage put on the gold, like you said, but I definitely assume that Kyo will not be doing that. His builders are going to be too clean, and it looks like TaToH as well, not needing to buy or sell. No, Kyo's going to be a little bit faster here. It looks like he's got the timing just right. I think he'll be down one villager, but he'll be up a little bit of speed, instantly queuing up these wood upgrades, adding the farms. Like, things are looking good. And now he's even deleting the barracks to make space. That's maybe a misclick.
Well, interesting. I mean, he probably won't need that barracks, like, right away. There's a second barracks, though. Oh, yeah, well, we're talking about Kyo here.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure. I mean, I can see players just focusing on getting a little bit more space, especially because, as you said, his primary unit composition would be in the direction of the composite bowman, so that barracks might not be necessary for him.
Yeah, it's just a bit weird. I think he was deleting a house and misclicked. Again, you have to remember, he's an AoE 1 player and an AoE 4 player. He does not... I don't think he's played AoE 2 much at all. So a lot of the mechanics, like the selection, these little details that as an AoE 2 player you might be very accustomed to, this is definitely something that Kyo is currently adapting to live in front of us, as he plays one of the best AoE 2 players in the world. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, that things might look a little messy at times, but Kyo's a very talented AoE 1 player. So excited to see this as the Bronze Age is coming in for both. And we're going to see kind of what their openings look like. How quickly do you think we see the improved bowman upgrade come in for Kyo? Immediately. So that's interesting. So he immediately wants to get these compies out. So not wasting time with like too much boom, and oh wow, an immediate siege workshop here. So these players are not messing around with the timings.
Not at all. TaToH's gonna go with the forward siege workshop, dropping the government center, though. You have the impression that that siege workshop is more just making sure that if there are any fights, it's gonna be close to the base of Kyo, not yours. But I would be shocked if TaToH wanted to get a lot out of this single siege workshop aggression, especially because, correct me if I'm wrong, but projectiles work a lot differently for stone throwers than they do for mangonels in AoE 2. They're a lot slower, and it makes it much easier for the archers to dodge them.
Yeah, stone throwers haven't historically been like the best unit. They're really good at busting down medium walls. So if your opponent is walling up, you build the stone thrower, which makes a lot of sense here. But in terms of like the standard, like against units, it's not really stone throwers that shine. They could have their moments against slingers because slingers have so much less range. But usually you don't see like the catapult line being effective against compies until Iron Age, where you get this catapult upgrade, and then of course heavy catapult has an even bigger blast radius, and then we're starting to talk about some real serious damage output. But immediately making this stone thrower, but it's going to be pressured by this bowman. So TaToH's going to be up to his little his micro games. Let's see how it goes. This is going to do fast work.
He's going to blast his way through these walls, and probably the idea here is that he just wants to dance around a little inside the opponent's base, just zooming around with those Hittite chariot archers. Walls will be broken through, and behind this, both players are on 2 town centers. So this is more of a decoy right now for Tato than it is like the main spearhead.
Yeah, and honestly, compies are quite good against chariot archers. It's a very good response. Now, chariot archers can like make really good use of the map space, but I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of space to like navigate around Kyo's base. If he plays this right, the chariot archers shouldn't have a lot of room to get raids in. But there's a chance. I mean, if there's any gaps here that he could run through, he could see it. And there's one. But the compies should be able to defend this without too much trouble, unless Tato just pulls out some god micro.
They have to chase, and Tato is like, I'm just gonna zoom around. Villagers being pulled. Talk about zooming. Just swarming those stone throwers. Some additional chariots coming in, though. We'll be able to find a lot of villager picks over here. Great value for Tato. Gets the temple going as well, and momentum is building towards Tato, I must say.
Yeah, no, he's definitely... He broke open the wall, and the villagers not able to take down the stone throwers. Usually you would expect them to do pretty well here, but honestly the stone throwers are Hittite, have that extra HP, and it goes a really long way defensively. Tato could start to think about repairing them up a little bit because they've both taken a little bit of damage, but once these massive compies comes in, Tato really has to be careful. They have, I think, the same range. I think it's 9 range for the compies and 10 for the stone throwers, but it's been a minute. It's been a minute since we've looked detailed. So 10-10, my bad. I'm backwards. It's been a minute. It's been a minute.
Yeah, this is gonna be tough to deal with now. You have the monks going. That's one thing, but then again, same issue. The range is just so big on those archers. As you see, now he's gonna have to dodge the stone thrower shots, but this is where the new formations come in handy. Staggered formation, box formation possibly. It will make it very difficult for those stone throwers to really do damage on that cluster of composite bowmen.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, one of the things that is retained here is the ability to heal the siege instead of repair it with Vils. Indeed. It's a fun little detail of AoE1, and that's still preserved, which is awesome. Makes this push really scary because you don't need to risk Vils, but you do need monks, I guess. These priests standing guard. Villager count looking good for Tato.
Huh. It's pretty neat. I feel like this aggression with the stone throwers, it accomplishes what Tato wants it to accomplish. It's just kind of the diversion, making sure that Tato is given time to build up his eco. Beautiful micro over here by Kyo, sniping down both of the stone throwers, and now Tato is forced back. You mentioned this before. You get to the critical mass of composite bowmen, suddenly it starts becoming very difficult for Tato to deal with those. What does he need to do to deal with this?
He needs to go Iron Age, and I think Tato might know that by this point, that these compies are going to be really, really tricky to deal with. So he needs to go Iron Age, and he needs to get catapults. Catapults have much more splash damage, so those shots we've seen that have been killing 1 compy at a time will start killing 5 compies at a time. And it's a really, really noticeable difference. Also, you can get engineering, which gives you another 2 range on your catapults. So that's really what he needs to play for at this point. But I think he's just going to try and mess up some CA, get a nice mass of chariot archers, and keep Kyo kind of pinned for a bit. Although Kyo is marching. This is looking dangerous fast. Kyo's having trouble even keeping his housing space up as he's been building so much.
This is clever though from Tato. He was hoping that Kyo won't reroll the section he destroyed, and if Kyo moves away from his base, he could just zoom in with a bunch of chariots, do a lot of eco damage. You can see to the south, he's trying to sneak around, but Kyo was on alert. He's going to replace the missing walls. Actually, there was an artifact even. I wonder if Tato had a vision on that section.
Yeah, Kyo has to start being concerned. His reinforcements got delayed a lot because he got housed for quite a while, and now he's in the middle of the map with a relatively slow army. Tato has 2 armies roughly equaling, so with a little more time, he could start to look for a really crazy surround, but these compies are no joke. Minoan compies are very, very scary to watch, so we're going to have to make sure that Tato uses the mobility to his advantage. Currently, we're going to see the fight take place. You can just see that range just snipes out these chariots. Tato using the mobility, though, dodging the shots. The dance is going to be critical here.
Crazy micro by Tato. Look at that. He's just juking all the arrows. One group is being focused down. The other one is chasing. Wraparound now coming in here from Kyo, though. Tato will have to disengage this one. Still, though, as good as it gets for a fight with Chariot Archers against those composite bowmen, now he's closing the distance, and you mentioned this. The reinforcements, they were slow to catch up for Kyo. Tato was taking a decisive fight over here in the middle, cleaning up so many of those composite bowmen, and there is more here for Tato. Reinforcements steadily coming in, army numbers looking better and better for Tato. This is looking really good now for him, Winston. Not only does he have a major eco lead now, he's also taking a terrific engagement in the middle.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, he is. He's taking a great engagement. That was really, really good for him. Kyo just kind of got caught out here, and yeah, Tato's micro's just been better. His understanding of the formations and his feel for that has just been better. And now Kyo, surrounded on all sides. Is his army going to go down here? Looks like he's getting a bit almost swiped, but reinforcements still trickling in for both. And whenever Tato stands still, these compies are doing so much damage, man. Like, it looks like it's going really well for Tato, then he stands and fights, and then like half of his CA dies. So that ended up being kind of okay for Kyo. These compies in the base of his just helping out a lot, and it's really up to whose Iron Age is going to be first, because Kyo has a much cheaper, more spammable unit. But I think Tato's economy up 15 Vils should be faster to Iron Age. Yeah, looks like Tato's just way ahead in the resource stockpile game. So we'll see how this pans out. Manono going to be able to catch up fast with 44 farmers. Only 34 for Tato. So Tato's eco maybe a little bit trailing, although we saw some Berryvilles for... Oh, there's the Iron Age for Tato.
Chariots, once again diving. This time around, not a huge mass of forces here for Kyo. Will be focused down. Once again, a bit of a micro as well coming in for Tato to maximize efficiency. And that is a great fight to be taken. And behind this, as you said, he's going up to Iron Age. Still needs to be cautious about this one. But he managed to buffer up until he gets to Iron. And then it's going to be very challenging for Kyo to fight this.
Yeah, I mean, this is really spicy because now Tato, once he gets iron, can add catapults, and the whole dynamic changes here. Before, we saw the Stone Thrower just, like, lobbing these petty rocks at it, and it was like, okay, like, that's not very good. But now we're going to see Horse Archer supported by catapults if Tato's on point here. And he has to keep microing away from these compies, taking pot shots. Another note for Kyo is if he's not up to bronze fast enough, or sorry, to iron fast enough, he won't have ballistics in time to really matter in these bigger fights, because once the fight starts scaling to higher and higher, if you can keep getting away with these micro movements where you just make your opponent miss, it starts going from, oh, 5 compies missed a shot, like, that's pretty bad. It starts going to, like, oh, like 100 compies just missed 4 full volleys, and you just lose the fight because of that. So we'll see now, this push coming in.
It's being opened by the villagers, and the chariots will go in. You couldn't ask for anything better than that for Tato. This is going to be such a nightmare to deal with for Kyo. Might single-handedly win the game for Tato, because by the time you clean this up, Kyo is probably going to fall down to 80 villagers or so.
Yeah, looks really, really tricky here. Town Bell was rung. Oh my gosh, things are tricky here. I think Kyo didn't know what that button did, because I don't think he's played AoE2. Oh boy, as now the pressure mounts up. I think this will get cleared up, but it's just so much damage so fast as the Horse Archers are growing. There's a fight on the north as well as this raid, so there's been kind of 2 engagements going on. It looks like Tato's kind of winning everywhere. The Chariot Archers spread out and fight everything all at once. Oh my gosh, this is really tricky.
Iron Age now coming in for Kyo as well. He still needs to clean up these chariots. Keeps losing villagers. Down by 40 villagers now. On the northern side, his army is getting cleaned up. And he isn't able to supplement this army in the middle because he's just too preoccupied cleaning up all these chariot archers inside his eco. He's down to 76. Oh man. Those villagers opening the gate, such a boost to Tato's game here.
That was just a disaster for Kyo. Like, you couldn't have scripted it better for Tato. Like, that was insane. That was legitimately insane that that gate was open, and now Compy's still going to be kind of okay against Horse Archers for the time being, but we see Stone Throwers, catapults, I'm sorry, being queued up. More and more Horse Archers coming in. Kyo gets to that Iron Age. And if he can get Ballistics and Alchemy coming in, he could actually start looking to hold. His villager count is half the number, but that should be fixable in the short period of time, as the catapult's upgrade isn't actually in yet, so that's still just a stone thrower. And retreats. Kyo has to retreat.
He's creeping up with towers. He's just playing this so well. Notably, he's been using units that don't cost gold, if I'm not mistaken, the chariot archers those are, against gold costing units for Kyo. So at this point, Kyo is going to start running low on gold, and that could have a big impact on the next few minutes.
Yeah, if his gold runs out, that would be really bad. I mean, compies are very low gold costs, only 20 gold a pop, so it's not the biggest investment. But yeah, he's definitely feeling the pressure here. As his villager count stays around 70, TaToH's economy just going to be way stronger here for the time being. Ballistics just about to finish, though, and that's when you're going to see this mobility advantage that TaToH's had is going to be quickly neutralized by this ballistics tech. It's going to be a lot harder for those micro engagements to be as effective. That bronze timing is kind of hurt a bit by that, but now it's up to Kyo. He's going to have to match the siege with his own siege, and that's where Hittite has a big advantage. Having the extra HP on their catapults just means they win a lot of these trades. And heavy horse archer on the way, catapults in just a few seconds for TaToH. But it's also on the way for Kyo.
You have a lot of towers here as well for TaToH, securing all the ground, securing those critical gold mines. And we could see that Kyo is essentially out of gold inside his base. Now TaToH is creeping up to the north. If he finds an angle to hit those gold miners to the south, that could be jackpot as well. But right now, his positioning on the map is so much better, and the amount of resources available also heavily favor TaToH.
Yeah, this has been really good for TaToH. He's had really good map control, really good presence on the map in general, like just very aware of like how to attack and when. That was a huge opportunity for him with the gate opening, and we got to give props to Kyo for kind of keeping it together there. Like, that could have been way worse than it was, but it kind of wasn't. It was bad, but he could be dead, right? And he's not. And TaToH's been popped for a bit now, and it's giving Kyo this little bit of time to catch up. Catapult is now in for TaToH, so this gate is not long for this world. Oh boy.
Not at all. The gate is going down. Huge ball of archers now there for Kyo. He's up to 69 archers, very nice, but he's up against 4 catapults. Has to be extremely cautious with this, because if a single shot could wipe the army. Dodges the first one, but he's playing with fire here, man.
Yeah, no, and these catapult shots will one-shot everyone in the radius, so even one shot right now is extremely dangerous. But we have catapults on both sides now, and so TaToH has to be equally respectful, but oh my gosh, that catapult for Kyo did a sick 360, then died and didn't do much damage, and oh, this is so scary. This is so scary for Kyo. It's only disaster. That's all that waits you. Here's a big shot coming in. First unit goes down.
Oh, another volley. That one is gonna hit. Beautiful shot by TaToH, and you mentioned this. Those catapults, they can just waste the entire army of Kyo here. Now catapults are gone from Kyo's side. Another volley comes in from TaToH. Those composite bowmen are disappearing, and look at the south. Just a huge ball of stone throwers now moving in from TaToH.
Oh, he's moving information.
Oh! Oh, man.
Oh, the huge shots finally land. Finally, the shots TaToH was really fishing for come in, and Kyo is just on the back foot here. His base is going to get leveled by these catapults. That's a big ouchies. That's a big... Although, to be fair...
For catapults.
Oh, he's getting heavy catapult. Oh my gosh.
He does. And the archers, they're just nowhere to be found now. Just wasted by all those catapults. Heavy horse archer in as well for TaToH. I honestly don't know where Kyo can go from this.
I mean, heavy catapult, we're going to see the beautiful model that they have now. So you can see visually they upgraded to having this kind of like bronzy, goldy tinted wheels. It's a sick trim, to be honest. I would pimp that. I would ride the crap out of that car.
So does
and
TaToH.
GG gets called. Oh my gosh, that's just so cool looking, but also insane shots. Let's see the KD. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, look at the KD. Oh boy.
Oh, Tato, what a game from him. And really, you mentioned this. The Minuan play is just, it's not a joke, that big ball of composite bowman. But Tato played this so well. Obviously was given a huge opportunity by that gate opening, which
Yeah.
contributed so heavily to him being able to just muscle out this victory at the end. But even without that, he has had a really good matchup against those composite bowmen, had a terrific micro with the chariot archers as well. In the end, wins the game and moves on to Sunday to the semifinals.